welcome to this new edition of Today's Youth. In this edition, we'll be talking about women's entrepreneurship in Egypt, and we'll be meeting with a young businesswoman after this short break. The Rise Up Summit is an annual summit that provides startups an opportunity for exposure, resources, and advice that would otherwise be unavailable to them. Nairouz Abu Zaid was one of 5 panelists who discussed the challenges that are facing women in entrepreneurship. Nairouz thinks that as the ecosystem develops, the additional value women will bring as entrepreneurs and as leaders to the ecosystem is significant. She believes, as many others do, that encouraging more women to lead business is no longer the right thing to do, but rather the right thing to do. Nairouz Abu Zaid is a woman activist and expert who has done various work with respect to women empowerment through lectures, seminars taking place in conferences and women activist movements. She is the publisher and editor-in-chief of one of Egypt's leading entertainment magazines, as well as the founder of an integrated PR and media agency based in Egypt. Having lived for 18 years in Rome, Italy, Nairouz moved back to Egypt in 1999, where she received her political science degree from the American University in Cairo, majoring in international relations and political philosophy. Welcome back, and we're joined today by Nairouz Abu Zaid, woman activist. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Would you please tell us as a start about yourself, your education, your background, before going into business and you being a very successful businesswoman in Egypt?
Thank you so much. Well, I lived in Italy for a very long time, since childhood actually. My father is a diplomat, and so by default we traveled a lot. We stayed, actually we stayed a very long time in Italy because he was working with the Food and Agriculture Organization there, so it was basically our home, our headquarters. There I received my high school degree from an international school, so I was very exposed to, you know,
different nationalities.
different nationalities, different cultures, and then my father, you know, suggested maybe I should go back to Egypt because my Arabic was very weak, and that's basically when I decided to come and join the American University and graduate from there, and then everything sort of catapulted into what I am now.
Right. Would you tell us more about your education and how did your major affect your career and your career choice?
Well, I mean, I'll have to be honest with you, actually. You know, I think this is happening to much of my generation actually doesn't use the degree in what they want to do. So the degree doesn't really affect much the aspirations that you build up as a young person, as a, you know, our general youth doesn't really go with the educational route and instead actually starts building the dreams once they're out. Plus the reality outside of education is very, very different than what they teach us. So things really do change.
Right. A lot of discussions have been going on through the past decades or more even about women in empowerment, and especially in Egypt and other developing countries. How would you define women empowerment? How would you think a woman can be taking a very active role in their societies?
Well, actually, you know, first of all, the terminology women empowerment is a bit tricky because it somehow highlights the fact that women actually don't have the power, you know. Rather than stress on the women empowerment, I would like to actually suggest that women do have the potential and the capability to achieve whatever they want to do. They are multitaskers by default. They are very strong-minded because they are biologically and mentally built to become mothers and wives and manage several aspects of the domestic life and outside of the domestic life. So I think in general the definition of women empowerment would be actually just women fulfilling their full potential. That is it. It's as simple as that.
Right. Do you think the Egyptian women have taken their rights fully at this moment, by this time?
Well, you know, some people debate that women have indeed, you know, achieved their, you know, their full rights. But I mean, really, it's relative. It depends on what full rights. I don't even know what that means, but it depends. It depends on what you're looking for. I believe that women have now the platform and the resources and the channels to educate themselves in order to become whomever they want to be. However, it is all in the mind, and I think if we can change the mind frame of certain women and of certain the class system in general in Egypt, I think then you really can see an uprisal in a women's movement, in a real women's movement.
Right. How can you define the term woman activist?
Well, I'll define it for what it represents to me, okay? What I feel a woman activist should be doing is basically being proactive in her own life. If I look at you right now and I see you wake up, you work, you achieve yourself, you fulfill your full potential, this is what you want to do, then you become naturally a role model, and you also give me hope that I can too do whatever I want. But if I'm constantly being bombarded with information that I am not good enough, I should be in the house, I cannot manage a family and be able to work, then that is basically the antonym to women activists. So women activist is someone who actually can become a role model to the women community, to the female community.
Several Egyptian women are now behind many successful business in Egypt and even around the world.
Absolutely.
Did that have roots before, or was that I mean, something new that started? Talking about Egypt, did this appear more after the revolution, the recent revolution, the January 25 revolution? How do you see this?
I think, okay, well, first of all, if we're going to focus on Egypt, I think Egypt has always been liberal, if you may, in terms of women's role in society. Women have always been regarded as a very significant entity in society. I think what happened is on what a woman should do or should not do. Globally, of course, we have seen a general uprisal in women's role in society. You can see now that a lot of CEOs, a lot of presidents, a lot of very significant roles are being filled by women. So this is a global trend, and it comes with evolution, and it comes with a need. But women have always in Egypt played a very significant role. I feel that we need to also be very careful on pointing our fingers at certain trends that are happening in subcultures in Egypt. Women in Egypt are very, very strong women. I don't even need to go back to ancient Egypt, where pharaohs were women. That's a whole other story. But we have in our culture, in our civilization, a strength in women's role, which we need to use, of course.
Right. Would you tell us more about, we're going to move to another subject a little bit, about the Rise Up Summit.
Yes.
Which is, would you please tell us the role of women entrepreneurs and businesswomen, and what's the main goal of the summit?
The main goal of the summit was actually to have sort of an interchange of ideas between entrepreneurs, to help start-up businesses find inspiration in people who already were established. I was lucky enough to take part in this activity. It was the first real entrepreneurship summit in Egypt. And I was asked to represent women's role in the entrepreneurial sphere. So I joined a panel of 5 other women, some who are not Egyptian, some who were Egyptian and who are still Egyptian. And we discussed basically the challenges that women face in being in the professional sphere, and also we discussed the strengths that women have over men when running businesses.
Right. About this point, I would like you to tell me more. What do you think a woman has more than a man in leading business?
Well, like I told you, women, first of all, are phenomenal multitaskers. They can do many things at the same time, because by default, if you want to work, you have to manage your house, and you have other aspects, and you have to look good, and you have to dress a certain way. Men have, I don't want to diminish the role of men, but what I'm trying to say...
But do you think a woman can be more successful in multitasking?
Very successful multitasking, but another feature that we have, or another factor that plays a very good role in our success, is that women actually have a nurturing nature. And in a business where sometimes things don't really go the way you want them to go, you know, when businesses are about to flop or about to fail, women find alternative solutions. They're not as pragmatic, and there's a whole survey about this. Women are much more open to a channel of amending, they're not as calculative as men. I don't want to generalize, because you will find men with very nurturing natures. I just feel that the women's desire to sort of be the mother of a business helps bring hope, helps encourage the employees or whoever she's working with, associates, to develop a really successful business. And there are real facts and surveys that women, when they enter a business, there's a higher percentage of success.
Really?
Yes.
Statistically shows that,
yes.
that women are more successful when it comes to business. I mean, is this an international statistics?
This is an international statistic that if you, I think I don't want to give the wrong numbers, but I think 35% more probability of a business to succeed if you introduce a woman inside the business structure.
Right. You being a mom and a wife, and you have a house to manage and so on, would you tell me from your experience, how can a woman be successful in both her house, in her role as a mother, and in her business and in her career life?
Can I be very honest with you?
Right.
Okay. Marry a really good man. That's really my advice.
That's the thing behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. If the man you decide, I mean, if we're talking about the domestic life versus professional life, the man that you marry also plays a very, very big role in you achieving your own goals. Because if he can support you in certain things, because keep in mind, for me to actually fulfill certain aspects of my business, I have to be out of the house a very long time. And by default, that will affect my role inside the house. But if the man is understanding enough and wants to support your ambitions without obviously taking it to an extreme, then you're probably going to be able to manage the two sides of your life.
So in your opinion,